I was at Costco when I heard the news. How about you? It's one of those body memories that I have. We were in the middle section of the Woodinville, Washington Costco near the towels and the linens. And our son, for a moment, walked a different way into a different aisle. And my wife and I turned to one another and said, at the same time, did you hear the news? Mother Emanuel, AME, Charleston, South Carolina. We have kids in worship today, yes? Mother Emanuel, Charleston, South Carolina, a church. I felt as if I had been kicked in the gut. Standing in Costco, I lamented out loud, how long, oh God, how long? Not again. A white male perpetrator who participated in a Bible study for at least an hour and then unleashed domestic terror here with the intention of starting a race war. How long, oh God? How long? Black churches have been historically targeted for such acts of violence. Because not only are black churches historically involved in their neighborhoods and their communities, they also are committed to ridding the systemic injustice that led to the need of hunger or a job or a place to live in the first place. How long, oh God? Back in September 15th, 1963, in Birmingham, Alabama, at the Street Baptist Church, Adam Mae Collins, Denise McIntyre, Carol Robertson, and Cynthia Wesley perished. A day later, then President John F. Kennedy would say to the nation, if these cruel and tragic events can only awaken that city and state, if they can only awaken this entire nation to a realization of the folly of racial injustice and hatred and violence, then it is not too late for all concerned to unite in steps toward peaceful progress before more lives are lost. Can only awaken that city and state. A call for us to be woke, to be awake. Today also marks an anniversary of the Pulse nightclub, where folks had gathered to celebrate in their community, the LGBTQ community, to dance and to be with one another in their safe, sacred space. And after the events there, and I didn't remember the main news organizations picking this up, a day after that event, that evening, our Muslim sisters and brothers broke their Ramadan fast in a park near Orlando. They opened up their hearts and their souls and served food to those who gathered and grieved. They said prayers for peace and healing and solidarity. And they came together with the LGBT community and those who gathered to be that presence of peace and unity in the face of domestic terror. How long, O God, will our black and brown bodies be subjected to such violence? How long, O God? And yet today when we come to worship, we choose to be a people who are united together. We choose to be a people who align ourselves with God's vision for our lives. We are aware that we need this steadfast togetherness to come together to be strong one with another. And in so doing, we become those people who follow in Jesus' compassionate ethic that we encounter in this Gospel of Matthew. Jesus, right, is a Jew. He's desiring to be that faithful Jew. And in so doing, he's moving about his cities and his villages. He's teaching. He's proclaiming the good news. And he's also being a man who's gifted in curing every disease and sickness. And the crowds are coming to him. And he sees them, and he has compassion on them. Because they have been harassed and helpless. And he says to his disciples, which is going to come back and kind of bite the disciples a little bit. Can we say that about disciples? But he says you need to pray, because there's a whole lot of work to be done. So you need to pray for the people who are going to feel like they should go out and do that work of justice and love and healing. And later on, as we know, those are the ones that are going to be sent out to do it. So it's like they're praying for themselves rather than, oh God, please send somebody else. It becomes, oh, you want me to go out? But we'll get to that. Jesus has compassion on this community of people who have been harassed, who have been told that their hunger doesn't matter, that who they are, their bodies don't matter. And Jesus sees them and he has compassion. This last fall, remember when we engaged in the work of Karen Armstrong, the 12 steps to a compassionate life? And she tells us that compassion means to endure something with another person. To put ourselves in someone else's shoes, to feel their pain as though it were our own, and to enter generously into his point of view. To endure something with another person. To be a person of compassion, she tells us, means that I look into my own heart and discover what gives me pain, and then refuse under any circumstances whatsoever to inflict that pain on somebody else. So Jesus' ethic begins with his compassion. And then it leads him to a call for mission and action. And these disciples who have been praying for folks to want to go out and do the good work are starting to realize that it's them who's being called to do the good work. And before Jesus sends them out, he gives them authority. He reminds them within them is the Spirit of God that is God's presence. He gives them authority to start exactly where they are. He gives authority to this Judas of Iscariot who will betray him. He gives authority to the one who's seen as a zealot. The compassionate one calls them to service in the world, but first he gives them authority, and then he equips and empowers them and sends them out. He sends them out to restore life in the face of death. He sends them out to those who are sick and to challenge the demonic and to share the good news of God. Do we know this morning, my beloved congregation, that we too have been given such authority? Right in this moment, are you aware of the power that is within you? As progressive, privileged people, that we have been given authority to cast out the demons of racism, the demons of homophobia, the demons of sexism, the demons of militarism, and to restore life in the face of these death-dealing realities. We have been given authority and empowered to challenge these isms as we live in God's loving presence. And I am very aware this morning of how daunting that task feels. Because part of me wonders, where in the world do we start? Yet Jesus was very clear. He said, yes, one day we'll get to the Samaritans. Yes, well, one day we'll get to these other folks. But today we're going to start right where we are. We're going to come together. We're going to link arms and show the world that love is brighter and bolder than hate. Every time, even now. That we have been given this authority to be the healers, the teachers, the guides, the justice seekers, and we're always going to be, and I don't know if this is comforting or not, but to me it gives me a little bit of comfort, that we're always going to be asked by our God to do those things that we can't do, and then we're in this beautiful long lineage of other prophets and justice seekers who thought, oh, not me, God, that's somebody else. God's always going to call us out a little bit more than our comfort zone, more than we think we can do, and yet this God continues to show up to give us the energy and the community to go out and do these things that we're called to do. To be a people who face the demons of our day, to challenge and cast them out, and in so doing, we are a people who restore life. And what does that look like? That looks like the many folks who are giving rides to our brown-skinned sisters and brothers who are needing rides, seeking asylum, trying to get some legal help, struggling with the English language and us struggling with Spanish. Folks here who are giving those types of rides to people. We're people who, when we put up during Pride Month last month, this is a shout out to Jen Peterson and to and to Tristan for, do y'all remember that last year? When we came in, there was a rainbow flag that said, choose love. And it also looks a little bit like this. To be a people who fight the demons of our day as we continue to seek to restore life. It looks like this. And this is from Tracy Blackman, and I'll end here. The Reverend Tracy Blackman, who's currently serving as our acting Executive Minister of Justice and Witness. And I know in July, when I venture to Baltimore to the National United Church of Christ Synod, that I will cast my vote that she will not only be our acting, but she will become our settled. After the events of Orlando and Pulse last year, she traveled down there to be a witness, to be a healing presence. And she tells us this. Confession of a woman who preaches. Tonight, a young gay man cried in my arms. I let him. His mother told him to let me go. She said he did not know me and should not grab me that way. But a woman standing by heard her and responded before I could speak. She said, it's okay. That's Pastor Tracy Blackman. That's why she's here. That's what she does. She gives hugs. So I held him until he let me go. Afterwards, his mother needed a hug. While I was holding her, she asked me, could she tell me a secret? She whispered in my ear, my son doesn't believe in God. Please don't tell him I asked you, but will you please pray for him? I asked her if I could tell her a secret. I whispered in her ear. I asked her if I could tell her a secret. I whispered in her ear, I'm going to pray for us, those who do believe in God. I'm going to pray that we do a better job of showing your son the God he can believe. Tonight, I'm praying for us both. May we continue to be those people who show each other and those around us a God that we can believe and give our lives to. Amen.